everyone, and welcome back to the channel Say What's Real TV. This review is for Tyler Perry's Zatima, Season 2, Episode 14, Redemption. So we open up the episode with Angela calling Fatima, who is out with Paul. They're having dinner, but Angela just was checking on her, trying to make sure she was okay, see where she was, let her know that Zach had left the house. Fatima does ask what Zach was talking about, but then she pretended like she didn't want to know, and Angela just told her, look, he's basically not going to give up on you. Fatima says she kind of figured that. Angela did tell her that while talking to Zach, it made her think about Bryce. And Fatima was like, well, how is that? Like, why? And she said, because he sounded so sad. And before they can finish the conversation, Fatima got off the phone because Paul was coming back to the table. So Angela, she hangs up the phone with Fatima and then calls Bryce and invites him to open mic so they can have a conversation. And Bryce told her it was going to be too loud in there for him to talk. He'll just turn around and come back to the house. I swear Bryce and Angela remind me of Calvin and Sabrina. So Fatima and Paul, they're vibing, and she's trying to get him to notice that all the women are looking at him, and he says, well, yeah, that tends to happen until they find out that he is a contractor and they want to know where the boss is, not knowing that he is the owner of the construction company or whatever. So he says that women in Atlanta mainly want a sugar daddy, and basically he don't have it to do. So Fatima wants to know, is that why you're single? He says he has some stories to tell, and she says that she wants to hear them, but he tells her, do you really? That he doesn't think she does because she's there in body, but her eyes say something different because she is sad. So, now she's like, oh, you trying to Dr. Read me? And then they have their little banter about that. So she decides, you want to get up out of here and head over to open mic. So as they get up to leave, Paul tells her she is so beautiful. She is one of the most beautiful women he's ever seen in his life. Now, mind you, when he met her on the elevator, he told her she looked just like his two exes. So Paul is like, I know you're not quite sure about all of this, meaning the two of them getting together. So he tells her if she ever decides to give it a chance. And Fatima's playing the game like, give what a chance? What does that mean? She doing all of that. And Paul is like, give him a chance to be the man for her. Show her what he can do for her as her man. That's how I took it anyway. Fatima didn't even entertain the thought and just told Paul, come on, let's go. So Angela basically called Bryce way back over to her house to talk about Zach, to let Bryce know that Zach is in therapy and that she told Zach to be nicer to him and that she's going to try to be nicer to him and let him know once again that they can't be together. But she wants to know if he would consider therapy. And it's because of his preference. And Bryce told her there's nothing wrong with him. So Bryce, he recognizes that Angela just misses him, but she tells him that she can't get that whole thing out of her head. And he says that that is fair. But she did want to let him know that she does not hate him. So then she tells Bryce, I really don't know why I called you back over here. I really got to get to this open mic. So Bryce was like, well, can I come with you? And she says, oh, it's really too soon. But girl, you invited him to go to open mic over the phone. I'm confused. So Zach, he pulls up on Connie, and Connie is like, what are you doing down here? He tells her, oh, I just came to look at you. She say, oh, you just want to look at me? Oh, well, I can go get naked right now. He was like, nah, you play too much, all flirty like. And I'm like, those are the mixed signals, Zach, that you send women, and when they react a certain kind of way, you act like you don't know what they're talking about. So he tells Connie that he wants her to go put some clothes on because he wants her to ride with him somewhere real quick. And she was like, all right, I'll go put some clothes on. And she's looking at him so he could come upstairs with her. But he was like, no, I can't. So she tells Zach, what is with this girl that got you being all stingy with this D? I don't like it. I'm like, Connie, if you don't go sit your behind down somewhere, girl. Zach is like, come on, for real. Are you going to ride or not? And she's like, oh, I want to ride that D. And I'm like, girl, that is all you talk about. It is ridiculous. So he was like, come on, Connie, I just need a friend right now. Can you be a friend? Can you be a friend? and she's looking at him, giving him the little googly eyes, and he was like, don't look at me like that. So Connie evidently really turned Zach on. She finally goes upstairs, and he waits downstairs for her to come back. So we get to open mic, and Fatima and Paul, they come in and have a seat, and they start chopping it up about the last time they were in there. And Paul is telling Fatima that she has an amazing voice. It's really nice. So Paul wanted to know why she didn't really pursue a career in singing. And she was like, life just happens. But she's okay because she doesn't really like the music industry now, and she loves what she's doing. So as they're sitting there minding their own business, here comes Belinda talking like her and Fatima are besties again, and talking about, girl, you gonna sing tonight? And Fatima told her no, and don't call me up there. So she looks at Paul and was like, oh, who is this? Zach's replacement? I'm like, girl, go away. And she's telling Paul all their business, talking about how she tried to push up on Fatima's man. I mean, just telling everything, and really call herself trying to apologize to Fatima, but talking to Paul, telling Paul all their business. And if you really wanted to be back friends, Belinda, you know how to find Fatima, but I guess you have to play it safe and talk to her in public so she won't shoot at your behind again. So I guess that's your strategy to all of that. But Paul basically told her that this wasn't the right time for her to be trying to apologize and all of that. So Belinda looked at him like, oh, shoot, like you act just like her. So he said, we just trying to have a good time. So Belinda was like, well, I'm not going to be the reason that y'all don't have a good time. And they were like, well, what's going to be the reason? So she points at a table behind them, and she says him. And when we look, it's Zach in the cut. So Zach, he wastes no time coming over to the table, pulling up a chair. And Fatima's like, clearly I'm on a date. And he's like, are you? And Paul says, yeah, hello. Zach didn't give a damn. Zach asked Fatima, like, does he make you laugh like I do? And Fatima said, yes, he does. He says, are you happy? So Fatima says, I just met him. So Zach had to repeat that, oh, you just met him. Remember that. Now, how much you want to bet Zach is going to throw back in Fatima's face that she said that she slept with Paul and that they just met? Watch he throw that back in her face. Even though she was lying, we know she was lying the same way he was lying, right? So Fatima brought up the fact that Paul has an advantage over him because he's already done the work. And Zach wants to know, well, does it matter if I'm starting to do the work? And he says with his guy, trying to throw a shot like, yeah, just like how you used his guy, like throwing that back in her face on the sly. And they have this whole round table about therapy and deal breakers and, oh, he did that to you. I'm like, are y'all really having this conversation? Like, I probably would have got up and left. I guess Zach said he gonna do whatever he can to bust this crap up. He's in there talking about, oh, you don't miss me. So Zach is like, well, what do y'all talk about? She say they talk about stuff they never talk about, like politics and philosophy. And Zach say that is whack. And told her she need that street, that hood, that gutter. You need me. And Fatima said, no, what I need is somebody that's not gonna hurt me. So Zach's response to that is, what you need is somebody that's gonna lay you on your back. Now, I don't know if Fatima got turned on by those things that Zach started to say about making love to her and licking her up her thigh and knee and all of that. But if I tell you that I don't want to be hurt and your first response goes to something sexual, I am going to be pissed off. I really am. You're trying to prove a point in front of Paul with your ego on 10. Like, be humble enough to beg in front of Paul. Act like you was acting in that doctor's office, in Dr. Reed's office. Act like that. Show me some sniffing and snotting in public. Don't get on here beating your chest in like, oh, I'm going to give it to you and I'm going to do this and I want you to lay on my chest. And I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. So Zach tells Fatima, look, I'm going to leave, but I'm going to leave the door unlocked and I'm going to wait for you. So then Zach looks at Paul and say, enjoy going home by yourself tonight. This is my woman. I love her. She's coming home to me. And then he tells Paul that the drinks will be on him. I know one thing. Paul has a lot of patience. A lot of patience. And I just think that Zach, for me, is a little too cocky for somebody who can't bear somebody to leave them and that he can't be alone. Like, he is too cocky and confident that she is going to come back to him. And I think that's the part I don't like. It's like, all I got to say is a couple of words, like I'm going to lick her up and lick her down and she'll be back. Like, that's all I got to do to get her back. See, I don't like that. Then he talking about the doors unlocked, Fatima. Hell, quiet as it's kept. When did she ever give you the key back? So when Zach walks off, Fatima starts apologizing to Paul, and Paul asks her, like, is any of this bothering you? And she lies and says, I'm fine. I'm here. I'm okay. He's looking at her, and you could tell that he can see right through that lie. And he was like, okay. And she says, let's get some more drinks. And that's what they do. So we get over there to the bar with Zach, and Nate is sitting there posted up. But I could have sworn Zach said he didn't want to be bothered with him and he needed some time. But here he is. So Nate is asking all kind of questions, and Zach is really not giving him any answers. He's like, I said what needed to be said. And then Tony, he comes up, and Nate gives him the 411 on what just took place. And Tony ends up bringing up the parking lot and taking Paul out to the parking lot. And Nate says, I'm not going to the parking lot because I'm not going back to jail. Zach tells both of them nobody's going out to the parking lot. And Nate says, good, because I'm not going to jail for your bitch. And Zach said, call her a bitch one more time. Me and you going to the parking lot. So Nate acts like he is shocked and appalled that Zach actually said that to him and says, Zach, you really like this chick? Nate, they were engaged. They are actually engaged and living together. What are you talking about? And Zach tells him, and you don't like her, why? And they came to the conclusion that Nate doesn't like Fatima because she told Lori what time it was with him and Deja in the hot tub. And truth be told, Nate didn't like Fatima from the gate. They had already had a whole little fight in the backyard before Lori even showed up. So he tells Nate to stop calling Fatima out her name, and that's the last time he gonna tell him that. No more conversations about it. And Nate apologizes, and then Zach turns around and say, and you in here with this B, talking about Belinda. Now it's giving pot meets kettle, because it's like, how you gonna tell him to do something, but then you turn around and do it? So Zach called Belinda over there to the bar where they were and asked her, did she set up the profile of Fatima? And she said she didn't do it. And Nate realized he didn't know anything about it until Belinda brought it to his attention. So now they're like, she did that shit. She did it. And Belinda denied. And she just walked off like, let me go do what I got to do. So she left. So then out of nowhere, Angela pops up and sees Zach and says, I hope that Fatima don't think that I sent you here. And Zach was like, she won't, but I want to tell you now, your girl Belinda is foul. She's the one that set up the fake profile of Fatima. And Angela basically told him she didn't believe that. So when Zach, Nate, and Tony walk off, Belinda walks back up to talk to Angela, and she just confronts her right there like, did you make that fake profile? And she tried to be her mad, talking about, don't be asking me that. No, I didn't do that. So we go back over there with Fatima and Paul, and they're over there enjoying the music, having a good time. And Paul decides he wants to ask Fatima what she thought about Zach when he came to the table. So Paul, he keeps making little comments like, oh, Zach was trying to be slick and he thought maybe it was a little cheesy. And each time he says something, Fatima would make excuses like, I don't think he was being slick. Oh, I didn't think it was being cheesy. So basically she liked it. And he was like, well, if it was him, he probably would have dragged him away from the table. And Fatima told him that would have been childish. So he said, well, you're right. But at the same time, now you're thinking about him. Fatima says, I'm not thinking about him. I'm thinking about me. So he asked her, well, what are you thinking about, little Miss Me? And she tells him that me and you can get up out of here. And as she's saying that, Zach walks by them with Tony and Nate, and he's headed over there to the stage. So Zach, he gets up on the stage and addresses the crowd to tell them that how he messed up with Fatima and how much he loves her and how he lost his confidence and ran back to his old girl, but he couldn't do anything with her. And here comes Connie somewhere out the crowd talking about, and I'm old girl, and that thing be thinking, and he's like, Connie, just basically making the crap worse. Talk about, oh, this thing was wet and ready for, but I guess he couldn't because of this lady. I thought she was getting ready to call Fatima a B. I was going to say, girl, it's going to be on and popping. But she said this lady. And, Zach trying to get her to be quiet, and she steady saying all kind of stuff. I'm like, oh, my God, so embarrassing. So they finally get her quiet, and Zach tells the band what he wants them to play. So he tells the audience, look, I'm not a singer. And when the music starts, he starts belting out Nobody Knows by Tony Rich. And he did the best he could, was singing his little heart out. And it sounded like Zach wanted to laugh so bad, but he had to contain himself. It was too funny, but I thought it was cute overall. So when Zach finally finishes his song, he looks out in the audience, and Fatima is not there. She is gone, her and Paul. And Zach is upset like, damn. So we go over there to Angela's house, and Paul and Fatima are on the sofa getting it on. And he's hovering over her, kissing all over her, and she's looking hella annoyed, like, please just get up off of me. And he recognizes it, so I guess he gets up. And I can't understand for the life of me why Paul won't take her to his place or maybe go get a room or something instead of on Angela's sofa when you know Zach will come and pop up over there at any given time. Like, no ma'am. So the next thing we know, apparently Fatima took Zach up on his offer, because we see Zach sitting up in the bed with Fatima come strolling towards him, taking her red dress off, showing off her nice negligee that's underneath. She gets in the bed and they make it do what it do with some nice, hot, steamy love making. And the episode ends there. Ooh, child. That was a lot going on just then, baby. So the question is, do you guys think that Fatima actually showed up, made wild, passionate love to Zach, and then left before the morning? Or do you think Zach or Fatima is dreaming? Now, we do know in the trailer, Zach wakes up and he's looking around because he doesn't see Fatima. So drop down in the comments and let me know, what do you think actually happened? And as always, you guys, thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.